I use 6 2-pin push buttons, 1 on-off switch, the Waveshare RP2040 round, jumper cables, a 400 mAh battery, and a TEA 5767 FM radio module. The buttons were just the buttons to control the device. The on-off switch was to turn it on and off. The Waveshare RP2040 round is what I used for the actual code. So this is the device that you programmed. It's basically a Raspberry Pi Pico compressed into a circle with a built-in display. So that's what I used. And I used jumper cables. There's a little bit of soldering involved, but not that much though. You could still make it without the soldering. And I used a 400 mAh battery so it could last for a while. And I used a TEA 5767 module so you could listen to music by plugging in headphones to the side. Now, time for the 3D models. The first model we have here is the Surface. This is the model where the buttons go and the display goes. Next up, we have the box. This is the model that the Surface sits inside of. So after you put the battery and everything onto the Surface, that little module, you just fit it into the box. And as you can see, the box has several holes for the charger, the button, and the switch. And the Surface sits in the box like that. The last model is the rim. This just covers up all the edges and the untidy parts of it. This makes it look more presentable. As you can see, this sits right over the Surface and the box, and it's held in place with 2 screws. As you can see, with my settings and my printer, it should take approximately 4 hours and 36 minutes to print all of the parts. I programmed this console with 6 unique games to play on your board. The first game is a Star Wars game. In this game, you move around by rotating the console as if it's a steering wheel, and then you press the top button to shoot back at the TIE fighters who shoot at you. You start with a 5-second shield, and on the left is a shield bar. When it's at max, you can press the middle button to get a shield for 5 seconds. Up next, we have Flappy Bird. This game is basically the normal Flappy Bird, except it doesn't speed up nearly as much, and it's not nearly as hard. Up next, we have the car game. This game is similar to the Star Wars game in the sense that you have to rotate to move around. The front button is to accelerate, and the goal is to not hit any of the cars. If you hit the middle button while hitting the top button, it takes you to this pause menu, which is the same on every game. So in every game, if you press the middle button and the top button, it'll pause, where you can go home, app screen, or just go back to the game. Up next, we have a card game called BS. This is a 2-player game, so I'm not going to go very in-depth over it, but I'll show you the basics of it. So it says the card you're supposed to put down, and now it's player 1's turn. So it shows what cards that player 1 has in their hand. And then player 1 can choose to put down whichever cards they like with the middle button, and then press the top button to end their turn. And then player 2 gets to decide whether they want to call BS or not. So if they press the middle button, that means they don't call BS. But if they press the top button, then they do call BS. So for example, he says BS, and he got him. This next game is pretty simple. It's the robot game. In this game, you have a melee weapon, which you can activate using the middle button, which can kill 1 at a time. And you also have a laser with the front button. If you fire it, it kills multiple, but it has a reload time though. The last game on here is Tetris. This one has a few key differences from the actual Tetris, but they're fairly alike. This one has a much larger board than the real Tetris. The first application we have here is a clock. At first open, it shows you the amount of time the device has been running for. So in my case, I turned my device on 26 seconds ago. If you press the right button, you can change the time. So let's say where I am, it's 4:56. You enter 4:56, and then you press go. And now the time is 4:56. And if you press the left button, you can set a timer. So let's say I set a timer for 4:57. Which is in 5 seconds approximately. So when the alarm goes off, the screen starts to flash until you press the top button. And also, music, the radio auto-tunes and starts to play music. So if you connect it to a speaker, this can definitely wake you up in the morning. The next application we have on here is a calculator. This one's fairly simple. It's just a calculator, really. The little circle is basically a mouse. Our next application is the graphing calculator. In this one, you're given 5 options, and you can choose one by clicking the corresponding button. So let's say I want to do 2. You press the right button. And to cycle through options, you click the front button. Let's say I want to do 2 to the power of x. I wrote it right there. And now the top button is this arrow, which means to go. So it graphs it. The down button zooms out, and the up button zooms in. For this next one, we're going to need headphones. You can plug in the headphones on the side using a headphone jack. So over here, you just entered the frequency of the radio station you want to listen to. A popular one near me is 92.5. So as you can hear, the music is on now. It also comes with an antenna you can use, but it isn't always necessary. It's necessary if you're in like a remote location though. But this does help boost the sound quality.